this video, we'll discuss the HPT axis. The HPT axis is part of the endocrine system, and it includes the hypothalamus, anterior pituitary, and the thyroid gland. Again, the hypothalamus releases a hormone which communicates with the anterior pituitary, stimulating it to release another hormone. This hormone is released into the blood via a second capillary bed and binds to receptors on the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is then triggered to release its own hormones, thyroid hormones, which then circulate in the blood and bind to target tissues such as the heart, the bones, the muscles, fat, the digestive system and liver, and it even enhances the effects of epinephrine and norepinephrine on all other tissues. The hormone released by the hypothalamus is thyrotropin-releasing hormone. R automatically tells us this is from the hypothalamus, and it triggers the release of a thyrotropin, tropin for activating, thyro for thyroid gland. So the TRH hormone stimulates the release of a hormone that stimulates the thyroid gland. That's released by the hypothalamus. In response to TRH, TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, is released by the anterior pituitary gland. Stimulating, this implies a tropic hormone, so thyroid stimulating hormone. This again is released by the anterior pituitary gland, which then travels in the blood, binding to its receptors on the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland, in response to TSH, releases a series of thyroid hormones. T3 and T4 are common names. Thyroxine is another name for T4. This produces an axis. Hypothalamus stimulates the pituitary, positive. Pituitary stimulates the thyroid, again positive. Thyroid hormones generally stimulate these target organs. I'll talk about that in a second. Again, positive. This axis also has built-in negative feedback. We can see here from the thyroid gland, these hormones are going to bind to receptors in the anterior pituitary and the hypothalamus, kind of putting the brakes on their release of further TRH and TSH. And so more thyroid hormone means less TSH and less TRH. And in this way, the level of thyroid hormones is kept at a good rate, at the ideal rate or levels. The thyroid gland releases thyroid hormones binding to target tissues, and essentially, to summarize the effects, it's thyroid hormones increase the metabolism of the target organs, metabolism as well as growth and development. So the heart, thyroid hormones promote normal growth and development, right? Normal metabolism, normal growth and development of muscles, bones, here. And even when you are done growing and developing, thyroid hormones have a huge effect on your digestive system and metabolism. And so thyroid hormones generally increase metabolism as reflected in the basal metabolic rate. And by burning more fuel, such as glucose, such as fat, which is mobilized from the fat cells, the adipocytes, mobilized from storage within the liver and the muscles, we burn through this fat, which produces heat as a byproduct. And so more thyroid hormones mean a faster metabolism and a higher temperature. Also, thyroid hormones enhance digestion by increasing how much, how many digestive enzymes and everything are released. And finally, the target tissues, their response to epinephrine and norepinephrine, these catecholamines from the sympathetic nervous system, their effects are going to be enhanced. Okay. Again, hypothalamus stimulates pituitary, stimulates thyroid gland, thyroid stimulates all of these target tissues, and inhibits the anterior pituitary and the hypothalamus, reducing how much of these and ultimately this. In this way, thyroid hormones are kept relatively constant. Now, if there's a problem, right, we can think about a problem at any of these three levels. Okay, I have three examples here. If there is a tumor that is more, for example, thyroid cells are releasing more thyroid hormone, okay, or any other reason that the thyroid is producing too much, what this does is it increases the thyroid hormones, T3, T4, And by increasing T3, T4, this is going to increase how much negative feedback there is farther up the axis. And so there's going to be a stronger negative influence on the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. This is going to result in less TRH, less TSH, again, in response to this negative feedback. However, if the thyroid gland is diseased in some way, there's a tumor, too much thyroid hormone is being produced, these levels, TRH and TSH, are going to remain low while thyroid hormones remain high. And while these hormones are high, there's going to be an increased activity at the target tissues. If there's damage, if there's a mutation or something else, for example, of the thyroid gland, right? So thyroid isn't working well, maybe an iodine deficiency, maybe something else is wrong. This is going to reduce how much T3 and T4 is produced. Of course, that reduces the target tissue activity, so this is hypothyroidism, but also there's going to be less negative feedback farther up the axis. And so there's going to be less negative feedback here, less here. And so in response to less negative feedback, the hypothalamus and pituitary are going to produce more of their hormones, essentially trying to tell the thyroid gland, like, come on, pick it up, make more of this. Okay? So there will be increased TRH, increased TSH, but fewer thyroid hormones. Final example, if there's a problem with the pituitary gland, right, as opposed to the thyroid over here, there's a problem with the pituitary. Pituitary won't be able to release enough TSH to stimulate the thyroid gland, right? And so without this stimulus here from TSH, the thyroid will produce less or fewer thyroid hormones. Fewer thyroid hormones mean less activity at the target tissues, again, like a hypothyroid condition. And because there are fewer thyroid hormones, there will be less negative feedback all the way up here. And so the hypothalamus produces a lot more TRH, right? Essentially trying to tell the thyroid gland, come on, pick it up, time to make more thyroid hormones. But the middleman is not functional. So you would have high TRH, low TSH, and low thyroid hormones. Once again, this is the HPT axis. Hypothalamus releases TRH, pituitary, TSH, thyroid gland, thyroid hormones, and in response to thyroid hormones, we get increased metabolism, growth, and development. Thanks.